There's nothing Norbert Mao is bringing new on the table. I have seen him speak as if he is the political heir to Leto Lanya. I have seen him speak about balancing the vote. Mao cannot tell NRM how to balance our vote of Uganda. We're the ones in charge. We're the ones who are going to determine how we balance the vote. And we shall balance that vote by, first of all, having a disciplined, loyal, and competent speaker from the NRM, from Trinity. And as I've said, I see no reason.
You were the mouthpiece of NRM during that time when this cooperation agreement was being signed between DP and NRM. There is a popular opinion that there was something to do with transition. And this is what even Mao fronts in this race as
well, it is Mao who has said so. My principal from the NRM, Mr. Yoweri Museveni, the chairman of NRM, the president of Uganda, has not told me, I have not heard him say anywhere that these are the 1, 2, 3, 4 elements in the cooperation agreement with Mr. Mao. So Mao may be, and you remember the president has actually rebuked Mao when he talked about a peaceful transition, as if Mao thinks that without that agreement we cannot have a peaceful transition. The president has rebuked Mao. But also, Mao himself has said peaceful transition, election reforms. It is now 3.5 years since Mao has been minister. Where are the election reforms? Where's the law on the so-called peaceful transition? So nobody should take Mao for the words he's talking about. I know he's good at flourish, but that's about all.
Who is fooling who?
I think Mao is fooling himself. Because if people had believed Mao, Mao would have been given a little bit more members of parliament, if people had believed him. But I think he's fooling. He's on his own errand. Even within DP, as you know, the vice president of DP, Mbide, has told the public that he's not aware that Mao is running for speaker. So I think Mao is on. Remember that Mao had tried the presidency against Yoweri Museveni twice. What has changed that he went back to run for member of parliament? Do you think he has abandoned his ambition for the president of Uganda? So somebody who has competed with our president and said so many uncharitable things. I don't think by just seeking the speakership, maybe he's seeking the speakership in the hope that he can use that route to gain entry into the presidency. I doubt if he can succeed. But if we have used Mao, then he allowed himself to be used. Because I want to believe that by the time Mao joined the NRM cabinet 3 years ago, he had had the hindsight of NRM of 39 years. If he did not understand, then he's the one who has lent himself to be used, and he should not blame anyone. And nobody should blame us for using Mao, to use your phrase. Neither Mao should blame us, nor members of the public should blame us for using him. It is the same thing if somebody says, oh, why are you buying people? You who's being bought, how cheap are you that you are being bought? That after 39.5 years, Mao lends himself to this dictatorship, the thing he has been calling dictatorship, because the constituent parts of NRM has remained. But you see, there are people who come to NRM for different reasons. Some come for welfare, some come to get a shed, some come to... I don't know what Mao weighed. I think that question should be asked to Mao. After 39.5 years, what did you see that convinced you that this leopard called NRM had changed its skin?
You see, Honorable, I want to quote Mao. One time he said a statement that there can never be transition in Uganda without President Yoweri Museveni. And that's why he extended closer to the power.
No, that's Mao's assessment. God forbid. Assuming God calls Yoweri Museveni tomorrow, he will not be there. Is Mao saying there won't be transition? And him overblowing his cooperation agreement, I think I'm using the word, the phrase correctly. I think Mao is overblowing. And who told him? Let him bring the cooperation agreement and we see whether it talks about him becoming a speaker. Mao himself said that his cooperation agreement was for him to be given a ministry. Apparently now he's not satisfied with the ministry. He wants to start picking the fruits by himself. You don't come to my compound and just start picking fruits by yourself. At least you ask me, which fruit should I pick? Privy to the cooperation agreement, to the best of my knowledge, with the broader membership of NRM, have not accessed, are not privy, don't know the content, the details of the cooperation agreement. We have taken our leader, Yoweri Museveni, at face value, that what he has done to bring Mao, to bring Beta Mong, to bring Betty Kamia previously, he intended to promote healing some of the political wounds, but also to make our former adversaries understand from inside how NRM runs things. I don't think he intended that they should be the fulcrum on which NRM balances, NRM runs things. I don't think that was his intention. That's the reason why we have never gone into a coalition where people determine how they want to be in NRM. No, the agreement with Mao is not a coalition. It's not even unitary. Mao came on NRM rules. If you are one person in a cabinet of 82, how much do you think you can change? Except to move on the terms of the majority. Yes.
So finally, Honorable, you know, it is quite interesting when you speak like this.
And just remember, I've spoken for NRM. I've spoken for the government of Uganda, so I know what I'm talking about. That Honorable Mao, with the due respect, he has been, he has overblown his weight, he has overblown his value in the NRM politics, and I dare say, even in the national politics.
What is your message to some of the NRM people who are behind Mao?
I'm not aware of the NRM people who are behind Mao, Honorable Mao, in his quest. The other day I said he's a gambit for the speakership. From the profile I've seen, there are social media commentators. What can you say about social media content? I don't think they fully understand, appreciate, or even have the details of how NRM does things. I don't know what is motivating them. And in any case, those are side shows, because the real people who are going to determine who the speaker will be members of parliament of the 12th parliament. A person like President Yoweri Museveni will determine, insofar he will make his contribution, insofar as he's leading the party with the majority in parliament, and obviously we listen to him. It doesn't mean he's going to decide on our behalf, but we shall listen to him. I don't think the president, Yoweri Museveni, the way I have worked with him for more than 35 years at close range, will abandon the person from NRM, selected by NRM, going through all the processes of SEC and the parliamentary caucus. I don't think so.
Is Mao a threat to NRM?
No, absolutely not. He's not.
Has he caused any kind of confusion in the NRM?
He's incapable of causing confusion, let alone changing the direction of NRM. He's not. He's not. And you see, it's not just Honorable Mao. We have tried many people. Museveni and NRM has absorbed many people. None has been able to either change the direction of NRM, diverting NRM, or even undermining NRM direction. No. So Honorable Mao can't.
Maybe we could also look at this question. It might be better to answer maybe all this. What are some of these things that these people who come from the opposition to the NRM, what do you promise to them?
For me, as somebody who has been mobilizing for NRM, the only thing we've been saying is that NRM is a good political force. Means well. We may make mistakes. And many of them have lived and fought NRM. We explain to them the futility of their fights against NRM. And that's how we quite often manage to neutralize, manage to ameliorate, and quite also often convincing them to show them that their political parties where they belong does not have a lot of journey, especially positive journey, compared to NRM. Personally, I've never promised anyone from the opposition a position, political or otherwise, because I don't have, as an individual, I don't have a position. But for President Museveni, because he's the chief executive of Uganda, for him he can promise people to give them positions. And of course, there are those who will be tempted to come because they are going to enjoy position or officialdom and the freebies that accompany those positions.
Okay. Looking at Parliament, the institution that you've returned to serving, there is also an opinion that it has no independence at all, and it is just a rubber stamp to the executive. What is your take on this?
I have heard the Honorable Mao say so. With 6 members of Parliament, I don't know how he would make that Parliament anything in his wishes. Because even if he was to come, he has the members of NRM in the Parliamentary Commission. He has members of NRM leading committees. So how is he going to make that Parliament anything different against that force if he thinks that force is negative? Now, Parliament is independent. But if individual members of Parliament or groups of them choose to be lousy, then that's their own problem. My view is we, the majority of members of Parliament from NRM, are capable, if we mean it, to make Parliament not just independent, particularly independent from negative forces, but we must make sure that that Parliament and other branches of government, the judiciary, cooperate for the good of Uganda. For example, what do people mean by maybe Parliament is not as independent? Would they want a Parliament that fights with the executive all the time? No. If you have been elected by voters, how can you be independent of your voters? Because you must listen to them, distill, and take their views there. So are you not being influenced by? In fact, it would be very, very dangerous to have a Parliament, members of Parliament, who say they are independent. They don't listen to anybody. Then who are you representing if you say you are independent? Who are you representing? I think what we need is harmonious relationship. Understanding your boundary as an individual member of Parliament, Parliament as an institution. And the other side also to understand their boundary, that there are things we should not make Parliament do, particularly outside the rules, outside the law. Yes. So for me, I'm in for a harmonious relationship among the organs of the state, respecting each other, respecting each other's boundary. That's what we should be asking for, not independence. Parliament doesn't create its own money, creates its own resources. Parliament relies on the taxation of the executive to live. So how can it be independent? How can it be? I think what we should ask for harmonious relations. Even when there's a disagreement, we should have a harmonious relationship among the organs of the state.
Then talking about over misusing the taxpayers' money, there is also that voice that Parliament has been at the helm of this.
First of all, Parliament is the one which appropriates. There is no law in Uganda which shields a leader in Parliament, a speaker, a deputy speaker, a clerk, a chairperson of a committee, from being investigated. And if there is sufficient credible evidence of misbehavior, to be asked to step aside, or to be removed, or indeed to be prosecuted. Unfortunately, in Uganda, we now run through hearsay. You, the accuser, must be able to provide sufficient evidence and then build pressure on the relevant organs to take action. You see? If we have established the rule of law, it means we must live by the rule of law. You don't accuse, you don't provide evidence, and somehow you want the person to be held guilty. No. Then you are not in the rule of law. Rule of law means you live by the law. If you accuse me, the onus is on you, the accuser, to provide at least prima facie evidence so that investigations authorities pick up from there. Yes, that's correct. Many people from both sides, from the NRM and opposition, have lost. To be specific, I'm going to miss our tango with the Honorable Semuju. For all said, Semuju was a very good member of parliament. He was putting NRM to check. He was speaking on facts. He researches. So I'm going to miss Honorable Semuju. I'll miss Jonathan Odur of Route North, I think. Route South. Yeah. I will miss Honorable Katonto. Those three, I was yearning to spar with them. I'll miss it, but it's okay. Let them be observers from outside, like I've been observing them from outside. We shall meet on another platform, but I will miss Semuju.
Okay. To interview as an MP-elect.
Thank you. But you have a phone, you have my number, you could have called me. But let me take your congratulations, that is sincere. Thank you.
First of all, when you entered in the race to become the Member of Parliament, you won unopposed. But I want to understand, what is that thing that you invested when you came into this race and to the position? Well,
as you know, I have been around for quite a while. To be exact, as old as NRM, 40 years. I started in Chankwanzi teaching people there. I have done 12 duty. And obviously, while I appreciate the contribution of my colleagues who have been in the elective politics for NRM, and particularly in Parliament, I've been able to see weaknesses, particularly raising an intelligent voice on the side of the NRM. Although we have the majority in NRM, we seem to be either shy or we have got diverted by other things. And I thought, with my long experience in NRM as a spokesperson for over 14 years, as a spokesperson of government for 14 years, and other errands I was doing, I thought my experience was necessary to make a further contribution to raise the voice of NRM, to expand the voice of the credible voice for the public in that parliament, because my age of 65, you don't fear to tell people what they want to hear, or what they don't want to hear, but which is the truth and which can correct. Specifically, as you know, I ran on the ticket of older persons. I think there are many things that older people afflict older people that are not known, not understood, not appreciated, and therefore not attended to. I have that checklist. Some are from the government of Uganda, others are completely new, that I wanted to raise, because all Ugandans will at one point be old and vulnerable, and they require government and state support. That's the main thing. I want to raise the voice of older people, especially the ones who cannot afford a life for themselves. Because in our country, saving is a new culture. Not many people have saved enough. And yet they continue to have responsibility. So I wanted to raise the voice, and I'm going to raise the voice of older people. In addition, strengthen the voice of the NRM. that the things NRM has fought for shouldn't die on the pedestal of parliamentary democracy. I intend to be a strong voice of NRM in that respect.
Talking about the intelligent voice you are going to raise, do you think there are two things? There is being right and doing the right thing. Where is the mismatch?
I think we lack coherent strategy, tactics, tact, and political parliamentary public relations. That even when the things NRM stand for are good, policies, legislation, even common discourse, we don't do it with the tact that the broader majority of members of parliament, that the broader majority of Ugandans are able to see that NRM means well. So I think we lack tact at the ministerial level, cabinet level, at parliamentary level. And yet parliament is an important institution that I think I should be able to build a convergence around tact. What tact does NRM need to apply to be seen to be a good, reasonable force in the country? NRM is an open community. We must promote a robust, transparent, open debate in the parliamentary caucus of NRM. Once things have been discussed transparently, publicly, the media will be there, ought to be there. Nobody will accuse NRM. Nobody will say NRM made a decision in the parliament and we don't know what are the reasons behind the decisions. No. I intend to be a robust voice in the caucus, but also even before the caucus, engaging with the leadership of NRM so that even in the caucus we do things differently. Yes, to improve transparency, to improve governance. Yes.
Okay, let's take this a bit faster. Currently, we are having the speakership race going on. Many people are showing interest and so on. First of all, what do you weigh in this race so far?
Well, NRM has 369 members of parliament. That's quite huge, more than two-thirds. And therefore, the Speaker of the 12th Parliament, let nobody kid, is going to be an NRM. An NRM who's disciplined, loyal, and confident that the NRM is taking the right positions. So there's no debate about that one. The Speaker will be NRM. Of course, we have a sitting Speaker who, as far as I know, Right Honorable Anthony Among, has expressed interest, and her deputy, TT, Thomas Tayebwa. I want to believe when NRM eventually calls for expression of interest, these two will express interest. And then we shall match them against those who have already come up from NRM. I have seen Honorable Lead Wanyoto, I have seen my brother Odria. Even the people who have not expressed interest, we can urge them ourselves to express interest so that we have a broad menu from which to pick. I have no reason whatsoever that the candidate of the NRM will win the day. So far, so good. I have lived here since the NRC days of '86. I think the current leadership in the parliament, a few mistakes here and there notwithstanding, they have steered the house. We have not, in the last 4.5 years, we have not seen scenes which make debate in the house and decision making impossible, like we have witnessed before. So I want to credit the current leadership of the house. And I would have no problem if they expressed interest formally when NRM calls for expression of interest, and we shall match them against those that are coming. I don't see, in my view, in my assessment, that we are likely to change. There's a very strong indication and reason that we are going to maintain the current leadership. In any case, even if there were mistakes, Parliament and particularly members of NRM should be able to be in the position to straighten our leaders in Parliament. So I will be speaking more later once people have expressed interest, but I don't see a reason why Thomas Tabiebo, the deputy,